Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at an incredible run up to 3433 ELO, number 4 in the world, using, of all things, a Great League Draco Meteor Goodra. These battles were submitted to the channel by one of my fellow Play Pokemon casters, 2O Butters, so many thanks for the battle submission. Now, the team is a bit of an unbalanced style. It has the Goodra on the lead with Shadow Poliwrath and Skarmory in the back. So while it is ABA weak to Charm, as we're going to see in the battles, he can actually still beat Fairy-type leads. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches. Hopping into the first match, picking up a pretty solid lead in the first match, leading Goodra into Whiscash. Whiscash going to be staying in this matchup, and that is very okay for Goodra. Goodra does have some pretty decent bulk, so it is going to be able to withstand that Mud Bomb no problem, and we actually see a simultaneous save switch, Shadow Poliwrath versus Shadow Tentacruel. They do pace to these Scalds identically, but Poliwrath will always win charge attack priority. The Scald is going to connect, and we do see the attack drop. Opponent is going to return fire with a Scald of their own. Opponent not so lucky. They do not get the debuff, and just like that, Tentacruel is going to be forced to go down a shield if they want switch advantage, and they do. So Tentacruel now at -2 attack. That means that their Scald is not going to do a whole lot of damage to the Skarmory. So in comes the Skarmory, perfectly fine with absorbing this energy. Oh, the opponent actually went for a blind acid spray, and they end up switching out the Tentacruel to reset the debuff and bringing back in the Whiscash. Whiscash firing off the Mud Bomb. Goodra farming up, going for the Draco Meteor. Aqua Tail will not cut it, but a Draco Meteor definitely will. Down goes Whiscash. Opponent, they've now lost one of their Pokemon, and they're going to have to try and sweep in the back with a shield disadvantage Mantine. Mantine is up energy, but it is going to now be down shields. Skarmory committing the shield against a potential Water Pulse, and the opponent is going to full send the Water Pulse. Butters, understanding that one move will not KO here, will go for the Sky Attack. Sky Attack will connect. Mantine continuing to farm. Honestly, Tentacruel isn't much of a worry in this endgame because they're never going to be able to make it to another Scald. They're just too low. The Mantine will connect with the Water Pulse, but Butters should just be able to farm up here. Oh, it looks like he's actually going for a full Steel Wing farm down to the Mantine to leave with 2 Sky Attacks loaded. Opponent, they do not make another move. In comes the Tentacruel. He's farming everything down. Steel Wing farm down on 2 water types to take the win. You've got a Core Breaker on the lead in the next match. Goodra versus Wigglytuff. So this is the question mark about the team. How does it do versus the Charm leads? He save switches into the Poliwrath. Shadow Scald would do massive damage here. So it not only grabs a shield from the Wigglytuff, but it does get an attack drop. Wigglytuff has high incentive to switch out of this matchup once it sees the Skarmory, and they do just that, sending in the Talonflame. Talonflame going to be firing off the Flame Charge, and we are going to see Skarmory commit the shield. Skarmory going to look to try and make it to a Brave Bird. Brave Bird will be able to pick up the knockout. Talonflame, not the bulkiest in the Great League. Talonflame lets it go, and they get KO'd. Once the opponent sends in their third Mon, we should see a switch back into the Goodra, trying to take advantage of the desync switch timers. It is going to be another Whiscash, and now Goodra's going to try and get as much value as it can to get rid of the Whiscash. Mud Bomb will connect. Goodra farming up energy. Goodra going to fire off the Aqua Tail. Looked like that was a charge attack priority tie. The Aqua Tail does get shielded. Opponent did not want to get hit with a potential Power Whip, and now we're going to see Goodra no shield, just trusting in the Skarmory to win the game. Wigglytuff will be able to apply an Icy Wind debuff that Skarmory cannot reset for the rest of the match. But if you're Skarmory, now you do see an opportunity for a win con. The Steel Wing farm down. Just try and leave with as much energy as possible. Wigglytuff does not make the move. Back in comes the Whiscash. Skarmory at back-to-back charge attacks. This is debuffed. The Sky Attack will connect, making it to the Brave Bird. And that's all she wrote for the Whiscash. ABA weak to Charm, leading into a Charmer. It does not matter. Butters gets another win. We have a battle of dragons in the next match. Goodra versus Shadow Dragonair. Both dragons looking to stay in this matchup. Goodra goes for the body slam catch, but it's unsuccessful. Dragonair banks a ton of energy. Opponent is going to send in their own Skarmory to help neutralize the energy advantage that Butters has. And this is a matchup where neither Pokemon can generate a lot of headway because, of course, both of their charge attacks are going to be resisted. So the goal is just to try and get the opponent into Brave Bird range. Sky Attack will connect. Butters now going to be in Brave Bird range. Goes for the charge attack priority tie, but he does lose it. Brave Bird would knock out here, and it is the Brave Bird from the opponent. But this now gets the turn into an energy advantage for the Shadow Poliwrath. And Shadow Poliwrath didn't have to give up almost any HP to get that energy advantage. In comes a Whiscash, so the opponent does not have a great response to a Poliwrath with this much of an energy lead. Poliwrath will fire off the Icy Wind bait, opponent calls the bait, but now we see the combo play, firing off the Aqua Tail, back in comes the Goodra, Aqua Tail forces the shield, Goodra going to be met with 2 Mud Bombs before the next Aqua Tail is reached. And Goodra, if it's shielding once, odds are probably going to be shielding twice. If the opponent really wants to, they can go for a combo play with the Body Slam to deny the Aqua Tail, and they do. In comes the Dragonair. Body Slam is going to be able to pick up the knockout. Poliwrath gets the KO with 1 counter. Back in comes the Whiscash, but Whiscash now has no way of resetting Icy Wind debuffs. The Icy Wind gets no shielded opponent, realizing they do not have a win con, and that's game over. Moving to the next match, leading Goodra into Mantine. If Mantine's running Ice Beam, this could get a little bit uncomfortable, but at high elo, I found the vast majority of the time Mantine is running Water Pulse, as Water Pulse in those neutral matchups, like going up against something like Skarmory, is going to be doing more damage. Speaking of neutral matchups though, Goodra really likes having Draco Meteor. The opponent does not respect it. Down goes Mantine, in comes Annihilate. Annihilate will now be met with a double debuffed Aqua Tail. The damage, of course, vastly reduced after the Draco Meteor is thrown. And now in comes the Skarmory. Skarmory in a position where it could threaten a farm down. Opponent switches out into Whiscash, and Whiscash will be met with the Shadow Poliwrath. Poliwrath going to be shielding up the first Mud Bomb because Poliwrath will be able to apply debuffs in this matchup. Poliwrath going for the Scald, going for the harder hitting move. Let's see, does the opponent call the bait? They do not. They do commit the shield, but the coin flip is successful as the attack debuff is applied. And now the Shadow Poliwrath is not threatened by a second Mud Bomb. So the opponent can go for the Mud Bomb, but Poliwrath completely unfazed by this. Mud Bomb, not gonna matter. Poliwrath can choose to massively overfarm. Oh, a very nice catch, catching the Icy Wind onto the Annihilate and saving the Whiscash for later. Annihilate actually ends up shielding the move. They were worried that if they let the Icy Wind go, they were just getting Steel Wing down by the Skarmory. The Shadow Ball lands. Skarmory makes the Sky Attack. This is going to be game over for the Annihilate. And the Whiscash in the back, it's just way too low of HP. Whiscash going to fire off a last second charge attack. Skarmory just laughing off the damage. Going for the no shield. Scald does not KO. And that's another win. We've got a Battle of Titans in the next match, 2-0 Butters versus Dunebug, and it's a very neutral lead all things considered, leading the Goodra into the Annihilate. Dragon Breath outputting a lot of pressure onto this Annihilate, and this Aqua Tail will get them low unless they shield. Dunebug is going to commit the shield. This could be the Shadow Ball. Butters calling the bait. It is the Night Slash bait. This forces Dune to throw another Night Slash to get the shield back if Butters wants to keep this energy and make it to another Aqua Tail. So now Goodra, oh, an attempted catch. We see an attempted catch onto Dugong. He sends in the Skarmory, anticipating that this is a bait out for something that is weak to Poliwrath in the back. So choosing to send in the Skarmory. Skarmory going to fire off the Sky Attack. So potentially reading that could be something like a Bastiodon in the back, which of course Skarmory would do absolutely terrible against. Dugong firing off another Icy Wind. This will not be enough to knock out the Skarmory. Will be able to hang on, and Skarmory just going to under tap the Brave Bird just to get rid of the Dugong, but Dugong commits the shield. So Dugong able to pick up the KO. Dugong now gets to fire off a charge attack into the Poliwrath. We do see the no shield. It is going to be the Drill Run, the switch into the Annihilate. Annihilate now to be met with the Aqua Tail from the Goodra. Does Aqua Tail KO? It does. And now what does the opponent have in the back? They have a Carbink in the back. So a little bit similar to a Bastiodon, but unfortunately not quite. A Bastiodon would have no win con here, whereas Carbink is only taking neutral from the counters. And now Butters in a bit of a tricky position here. The opponent still does have the Dugong left available to them, trying to go for a farm down, but the Carbink lives on 1 HP. Oh no, disaster strikes, trying to leave with a move for the Dugong. Oh, that is a heartbreaking end to a game. But a chance for redemption in the next match, leading Goodra into Annihilate. This Annihilate won't even build up to the Shadow Ball, just going for the Night Slash right off the bat. The Night Slash does not get the boost, thankfully, and now Goodra will return fire with the Aqua Tail. The Aqua Tail will be shielded. Opponent does have the pacing advantage in this matchup, but they're forced to throw. Otherwise, Goodra can make an Aqua Tail before Annihilate gets the farm down. So the Night Slash will be shielded. Goodra taking a couple extra counters to let itself get as low as possible. The Aqua Tail into the Annihilate is no shielded and Goodra wins lead. In comes Registeel and the Aqua Tail is not reached, and that is potentially problematic. The good news here is that Poliwrath is able to exert some pretty significant damage with these counters. Unfortunately, that damage has just been reduced by a Zap Cannon debuff. Going for the Scald into the Registeel. Registeel is going to no-shield, get debuffed in the back. It's Gligar, and there is nothing more satisfying in the game than the opponent having an energy lead Gligar. And you can just send in your Skarmory, and it doesn't matter what they do. They can throw Aerial Aces, they can throw Digs. They should throw Digs, but it's just not going to matter. A fun anecdote that I heard is that if it's in the 1-to-1 shield and the Shadow Gligar has a 100 energy head start, it beats every single Great League meta Pokemon except one, and that is Skarmory. That's the reason why Skarmory has risen in terms of its usage so much with the Steel Wing update, is it finally has a usable fast move, but it's such a good check to Gligar, which is insanely flexible otherwise. And as we see here in this endgame, Skarmory just destroys the Gligar, and it's a win. Tough lead in the next match, and an even tougher counter switch, leading the Goodra into Alolan Sandslash. The Skarmory save switch answered with Lantern. I mean, this is good for Poliwrath because you had to bait out the Lantern, but this is still a very tough spot to be in. He overfarms a ton, goes for the Brave Bird, makes Brave Bird number 2, and this is actually going to get the Lantern into the red. So Skarmory outputting a tremendous amount of damage. Opponent stops attacking there intentionally. That is not lag. They intentionally did that because they want to exit with 100 energy, but they want to give as little farm to Goodra as possible. So they keep enough HP so that they can make the Thunderbolt and the Surf here, but Goodra is just not going to be able to generate much of a headway because it only gets a couple Dragon Breaths. So Goodra will farm down. Poliwrath looking to sweep. In comes the final Pokemon for the opponent. It's a Shadow for Alligator, and this game is over. The 2-shielded Poliwrath will be able to sweep this endgame. Poliwrath just shields the first Hydro Cannon, no shields the second, because you need the final shield for the Drill Run from the Alolan Sandslash, and just by going for counters and going for Icy Wind, the opponent has no win con remaining in this match. They go for the Hydro Cannon. Shadow Poliwrath does not care. Getting the farm down, clicking the Icy Wind. It doesn't matter that it's heavily resisted. You need the debuff. Opponent shields, and just look at the counter. Shadow Poliwrath with the Lantern out of the way just completely sweeps that team. We've got a surprise in the lead in the next match. After Goodra saw so many Whiscash, this is not a Whiscash. This is a Quagsire. Quagsire, definitely not a Pokemon I was expecting to see. Oh, and they're running Earthquake as well. The spice from the opponent. Oh my goodness. He's going to bank as much energy as possible as the opponent save switches into Skarmory and just send in his own. This is a very similar play to what an opponent did to him earlier in these battles. Just farming up a ton of energy on Goodra, saving it for later because that Goodra energy is not useful whatsoever to the Skarmory, and just bringing in his own Skarmory because he knows it's a hard wall to the opponent's energy. So it's a very nice play, like taking a read on what the opponent did and then being able to use it in a future game. Unfortunately, Butter Skarmory is consistently losing these charge attack priority ties. The Sky Attack does not KO, however, and he's going to be able to fire off the Brave Bird. Brave Bird picks up the knockout. He's looking to pivot into the Poliwrath. Poliwrath just looking for a counter farm down. Unfortunately, not quite able to get there. Quagsire makes the Earthquake, and that does massive damage. In the back, it is Bastiodon. Bastiodon is going to be debuffed by the Icy Wind. One more counter. Oh, actually gets 3 more counters. I didn't think he'd live that smackdown, but thanks to the Icy Wind debuff, gets 3 important counters. And now here's where the energy on the Goodra will be very, very clutch. He's going to look to do 2 Dragon Breaths and the move here, because that way he's not giving his opponent any free energy. So he does 2 in the move, 2 in the move, just continually applying this pressure onto the Bastiodon. Clock will be up at some point for the opponent, and there it is. They try for the catch onto the Quagsire. They are unsuccessful, and Goodra is about to become a Bastiodon counter. The Aqua Tail connects. Goodra going for another Aqua Tail, not going to risk going for the bad manners Draco Meteor. The Aqua Tail lands. Goodra Dragon Breaths down the Bastiodon. What a win. Hopping into the final match, leading Goodra into Shadow Whiscash. Opponent save switches into Gligar, and they're about to regret that decision. And that's exactly what you should do if the opponent save switches the Gligar and you have the Skarmory in the back, is he can stay in and farm up energy with the Goodra, because Goodra is not threatened by Wing Attack. So as we saw there, even though he had a hard counter, he didn't switch it in right away. He instead chose this as an opportunity where he could get a massive advantage on the Goodra, and now he can send in the Skarmory to invalidate the energy. He goes for the Sky Attack, goes for an undercharge, because he does want to exit this matchup with more energy, and after taking another move. Unfortunately, the opponent gets to the dig that actually gets the Skarmory pretty low, and the Skarmory loses switch. Oh no, disaster strikes in that one. He's going to send in the Goodra and get the farm down. But the good news for him is that the Whiscash has nowhere to run. In comes a Cresselia. Cresselia, oh boy. If they don't respect this, this is going to do so much damage. The Draco Meteor does get shielded. No, the opponent actually respects the Hail Mary Draco Meteor. He's going to no-shield. The Moonblast will pick up the KO, trusting in 2-shield Poliwrath to take home this win. And Poliwrath should be able to do just that. Poliwrath shields as Cresselia will go for the Grass Knot. Poliwrath looking to overfarm quite a bit and plays to the charge attack priority tie. Poliwrath, Scald, crashes into Cresselia. Cresselia now in a range where it can get countered down. It's running out of hit points. We see the switch into the Whiscash. Whiscash firing off the Mud Bomb, but this is Shadow versus Shadow, which means this Mud Bomb will do extra damage, but this Scald is going to do so much more. Firing off the Scald into the Whiscash. Whiscash gets farmed down. All that's left is Cresselia. Can it make it to a move? No, it cannot. And Poliwrath takes the win. All in all, this is a very fun team, and big congratulations to Butters. He started, I believe, around 3,000 ELO and made this climb almost entirely while streaming, so an incredible climb. And running a Pokemon that you don't really see a lot of. Like, you don't really see a lot of Goodra, and if you do, they're probably not running Draco Meteor. So, big congrats to Butters, running something very unique and having massive, massive success with it. And one thing that I do like is it goes to show that even in those situations where he didn't have a good lead in swap, he's still able to stay calm and try and leverage an advantage to help his final Pokemon sweep the endgame. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our members here on YouTube. The support guys provide is sincerely appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.